Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me this morning and allow me to share with you our experience in government efficiency. I would like to remark three moments in the recent history of El Salvador. The first one is what kind of government we inherited in 2019 when we took office with the President Bukele. And second, the way that we managed the problem, the main problem, which was the violence. And once we declared the war against the gangs in year 2022, now we are able now to start with our development program, which is a six steps program that President Bukele has defined. And finally, which is one of our goals that President Bukele created under an executive decree, the School of Superior School of Innovation and Public Administration. So let me put it in a nutshell, in 10 minutes or so, this big transformation that our country has lived. As I said, we inherited the government, which gave us a violence that the figures could be in a country on international war. 41,000 assassinated Salvadorians in the last two governments previous to our government. We were pointed out by The Guardian, this British newspaper, in August 2015 as the world's capital of the homicide, because only that month, 900 Salvadorians were killed, meaning that every day 30 Salvadorians were killed. More than one Salvadorian will kill every hour. That was the government that we inherited. And the President Bukele, with his disruptive leadership, took the unwavering decision to deal with that problem from day one. And from June on 2019, we put in place our control territorial plan with 7 steps. Now we are in the 6th steps, which is the social integration, trying to rebuild the social network that has been destroyed or were destroyed by the action of the gangs. But at the very beginning, we found a failed state. The government not only had lost sovereignty in the territories in the community where the gangs control the daily life of the population. They kill, they rape, they extortion, they kidnap the population, and the government at that time didn't do anything. On the opposite, they were colluded with the gangs to take electoral advantage, one of the two parties, because at that time we had a two-party systems that came from the civil war that we get the peace agreement in 1992. So that was the situation. In addition to an exponential corruption, the last 4 presidents of El Salvador were indicted by corruption. One of them is still in prison. The other 2, they flew to another country where they get, sort of protection in order to escape to the justice in El Salvador. So corruption, violence, and stagnation of the economy, that were the country that we received. But as I said, with the leadership of President Bukele, we took actions immediately and started dealing with the main problem, with the violence of the gangs, and we started taking over all the communities and giving back to the communities, to the neighborhood, to the population, and doing this sort of liberation for them. Now, the peace, the harmony is back in the communities, and you can see the people smiling on the street, on the public areas that they were not allowed to share with their kids in the streets or in the park and the squares. Now it's back, the peace and the harmony in the community, and the economy at the local level, the micro and small enterprise start flourishing. In the past, that wasn't impossible. If somebody wants to open a workshop to repair cars or a beauty salon or something like that, immediately the gang were there trying to ask for the extortion. Only the industry of the public transportation pay more than $40 million every year on extortion to the gangs. So that was the country that we inherited, and that was the country that we decided to liberate. And once we did it, because as I said, we declared the war against the gangs on the 27th of March of 2022. That means next month will be 3 years that we declared the war based on the international humanitarian law. Because this is, as you know, there is the jus in bello, which is the right in the war, and the jus ad bellum, which is the right, and I add, the duty, the responsibility of the government to defend the population. Our population were under attack by the gangs. As I said, 41,000 killed people in 1 decade. This is a statistic for a country in war. We had lost the sovereignty in the community. So that was the only way to solve the problem. It was the way and the approach that President Bukele, he put in place, and he made it. And he said in his second mandate, because as you probably know, President Bukele ran for a second term, and he was elected with more than 85% of the approval of the population. Because the people, Salvadorian people, understood the way that he was managing the country. All the times, any poll, from any different pollsters, they give them more than 90% of the approval. 90% of the approval after 5 years in government, which is the term of our mandate. It's amazing. No one chief of state or head of state could do it. But now he's repeating. And he said in the second mandate that he was re-elected, and I ran with him as a part of the ticket. So he said, now we are ready for the takeoff of the economy. And there are several engines to move ahead in this journey. And that was, first, because you probably know also that with his disruptive leadership, he decided to enact a law declaring the Bitcoin as a legal tender. That happened on September 2021. This pioneerism, this leadership, we have to pay a high price for that, because many multilateral financial institutions like the IMF or the World Bank, they punish us. They lower our rating to the triple C, the worst, at the very bottom. But now, when finally, I won't say the mankind, as Professor Klaus Schwab was telling this morning in the opening words, that the humanity is moving in that way, the digital economy, and the country, Salvador, took this leadership with responsibility, and now many people are coming to observe what's going on in El Salvador. 2 years ago, we have the visit of 44 high-level administrators for 44 countries, from Africa, South America, Europe, to examine how the Bitcoin was working in El Salvador. Now we are adapting our legal framework to this new economy in the world. We have approved the electronic signature. We have approved the electronic bill. We have enacted a new law regarding the digital assets. There are only 2 laws in the world regulating the digital assets, one in Spain and one in El Salvador. Many companies have been moving to El Salvador because it's more flexible, our law on digital assets. And many companies they are now tokens with the tokenization in our country. And we approve another law, which is to exempt of taxation those companies who install in El Salvador for innovation and technologies. We want to attract these giants, as the last one. Well, actually, 2 years ago, we signed an agreement with Google Cloud in California, and now we have the largest office of Google in the region, which is now in El Salvador. We opened a data trust. The company that is well known, Tether, has been decided not open a branch in El Salvador, but moving their headquartered to El Salvador. That is the decision that has been made for a giant of the industry. So this is the new country that we are presenting out to the world. And as I said, there are other engines to the development. We grew up exponential on tourism. 300% we grow on tourism. We modify our matrix on energy. When we took office, more than 5 years ago, we were importing 20% of our energy from Guatemala and from Mexico. 5 years later, we not only import anymore, we are exporting to the Central American energy market. And we changed the matrix. We are using less and less the fossil combustible, the fuel, and we are moving to the renewable energies. Solar energy, aeolic energy, biomassa, hydro, and also one of the main sources that we have in the undersoil from the volcano, which is the geothermal energy. And lastly, we approve a law for nuclear energy. And with the visit of the Secretary of State last week, we signed a MOU with the United States to develop our nuclear energy. So we are in the ability, in the availability to offer to the investors these new conditions, not only with the safety, physical safety for the workers and for the people, but also legal security under a strong rule of law. Because this is another feature that you have to keep in mind about the leadership of President Bukele. As I said, he has an unwavering decision to lead this country. And not only on matters like, the gangs or all this situation, but also in the daily life. We have recently approved a zero tolerance alcohol on the streets. We have approved a strong new law against corruption to combat the corruption, because that was another of the issues that we inherited. So, try to conclude, because he's showing me the watch. So, I would like to say that to do that, to succeed in this new future, which is now the present, as we heard in the opening remarks, we are in the future that we saw in the movies, now we are living with. So we are investing in education. By the first time, El Salvador has passed more than 5 points of the GDP in education. And we are shaping our new generations, trying to make them more functional in this fourth revolution. All the students in El Salvador, from the public system, every single student, teachers, they receive an electronic device. For the kids on the primary school, they receive a tablet. The rest, they receive a laptop. And they are learning with the Google Classroom. So that means that our next generation will be very functional and competitive in the new world. And as I said, if we do that, and we change our legal framework, and we adapt the leadership, what was the mislink of this virtual chain? Did you know what was that? It was the public servant. Public servant shouldn't be, as Professor Klaus said this morning, no longer bureaucrats. They have to be the architects to the new construction of the new government. And that is something that we are doing with the president. We have this new school of innovation for public administrators. We have less than 2 years of function. And my colleague, Claudia Delarin, she's the director, is part of the class, and she's here to accompany me and to give you information in detail about how we work in this. But our goal is to train and certify all the public servants as much as possible. So far, we have passed the number of 9,000 public servants in different topics. So, thank you for your time, and believe me, you are more than welcome to come over to El Salvador. You will enjoy our beaches. For those who like to surf, we are the surf country, And or if you cannot, we have good teachers to teach to you. Thank you very much.